Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Cities Skylines. I hope you're having a good one because I am excited to be back. Things are going pretty well. The city is developing nicely, but today, well, I'm thinking that we need to grow the city a bit more. I've seen some comments, as I always do. I've been reading the comments, and I've seen a few people mentioning that for the last few episodes, we've been focusing on small projects, such as the Old Town, such as this area right here with Mill Hills, and such as Sycamore District, and that we haven't really grown the city. And I think that's pretty accurate. I can't really argue with that because we haven't really grown the city, at least not in any major way. So I think today, what I want to get started with is working on a big old district kind of in here. So my thinking for this would essentially be that we go in, we paint a district across this entire section of road. We come about to about there, and we'll go sort of straight up to the highway. We'll bring it kind of around the highway, and then that entire space is going to be like a suburb almost, is my thinking. I'm not 100% sure what it's going to end up looking like. But I'm pretty sure at one point I mentioned that I do want to go in and get a suburb next to this highway and sort of between the city and the airport. So I'm hoping I can do that, and I'm hoping I can make it look the way I sort of see it in my head, which I'll be honest, I kind of doubt, because the way I see it in my head would need me to go and get a bunch of custom assets from the Steam Workshop, and I'm not really feeling like doing that. And I know it's easy. I know that might sound lazy, but I'm trying to walk a line with this series, to be completely honest. And that's half the reason that some days there's no episode, is because I'm trying to make sure that this doesn't just turn into a full-on Let's Build. I still want to play Cities Skylines and manage the city and stuff like that. So I'm trying to avoid it turning into like, oh yeah, we've got, $100,000 and I never have to worry about anything, and we're just going to build stuff and detail it forever. Because at that point, it might as well all be time-lapse episodes. And at that point, look, my track record with Let's Build series isn't very good. That's all I'm going to say. My track record with Let's Build series is not very good. So I'm trying to kind of avoid that particular thing from happening again. Now, I do also want to fill up this little bit of zoning and make sure it's proper, and then take it off of that bridge and take it off of the avenue. And that gives us Oak District, which I think is pretty solid. It's a pretty chunky chunk of land, so I can make that work. I also kind of want to go in and remove these trees from the highway because they have been bothering me for a little bit. So we'll just take out a whole bunch of those, and we'll take out this one as well, delete them, and there we go. So the highway is clear of trees, which is great news. How are we doing in terms of electricity as well? So electricity is doing fine. Water and sewage are doing okay. Garbage could be a lot better, because that's for sure. We definitely need to improve the situation with garbage, which honestly, moving a lot of these recycling centers out of this industrial area would probably solve a lot of the traffic problems that we're having up this way. So I might want to do that at some point as well. Medical coverage is all right, I suppose. Fire coverage could be a lot better. And policing is pretty solid. In terms of education, elementary schools are a must-have. We have definitely not got enough of those. High schools definitely need more of those. And universities we don't have any of, so we'll get those at some point as well. Now, speaking of traffic in this area, I realize that part of the reason this traffic is having so much trouble here is because if you're going from, say, the industrial area down here up to this area, you have to hit this roundabout. Because Kent District has an Old Town policy, and it's a pretty big district, to be completely honest, for right in the middle of the city. Same with Fawn District, if we're completely honest. So it might not be a terrible idea to push a road that kind of cuts through Fawn District and cuts it in half that traffic can use to get through there. And the same with Kent District as well. I'm thinking that maybe this road becomes an avenue and we kind of just push it straight up, maybe connect it over to this road, which becomes an avenue as well. And we let traffic go through the district. And I feel like that might help with traffic in general. So that's something I'm going to circle back to. But for now, I kind of want to prioritize Oak District because I like the idea of having a highway connection for it, but I also like the idea of not having a highway connection for it. So let's just figure it out. Let's just wing it and see what we can do. So we'll have collisions back on. We'll have node snapping back on. And what I want to do is I want to go to here and I want to go to here. And then basically we're going to do something very similar to what I did with the natural kind of divide between industry and residential, except it's going to be a divide between commercial and a residential suburb. So these guys are going to get connected together, and it actually gives us pretty good zoning, which is lovely. This is going to come over and it's going to go up to there, and we'll bring this over to about there as well. Now, the entire district's not going to be perfectly laid out, but I think this this outer road probably could be. I feel like we could have some fun with this this outer road. I'm also wondering if I can get away with. Oh, if I do this, it's going to mess up my. It's going to mess up some stuff, but we're going to do it anyway because I want this nice curve. So let's just get the snapping point, which is there and there. Get rid of all of that, and actually, that seems to be fine. It's not. I don't think it's perfect. It's actually kind of far from it, but it works. And then essentially we're going to do the same thing for going around the highway as well. So I want a gap of about 4 units against the highway. And then what I can do with that is, well, can I get that to line up? I guess I can. What I can do with the 4 units is just go ahead and put a bunch of trees in there as well. So we have kind of got like a natural sound barrier, as I always say, between whatever we're building and the highway. So that should be okay. Now what we want to do is this right here, which is going to have trees on it. If I turn off anarchy, does that get rid of the trees? No. If I turn off tree anarchy, will that get rid of the trees? Yeah, funny how that works. Okay. And then in terms of this curve, I kind of need to see if it's going to snap, which, yeah, that does. So that's fine. It's a huge area that we're playing with right now, but that's kind of the point. It's going to be a huge area with a bunch of suburbs right next to a highway, and it's hopefully going to look interesting, I guess. I'm not 100% sure that it will. I'm not 100% confident that it's going to look interesting, but I'm hopeful that it's going to look interesting. I'm also thinking that we should probably do this and have that kind of curve right there. And that looks pretty good. Again, we can put some trees in there. We can put some paths in there. We can let people walk back and forth from this area to the main roads if they really want to, which technically means they could cross over here and get on this bridge and walk to the airport if they really wanted to as well, which I don't know why they would want to, but if they do, they can do that. So that's fine. Let's, I guess, start figuring out how I'm going to fill up this space. And it's very tempting to fill the entire thing with, you know, the entire thing could just be a suburb. It might look a bit weird though. I guess we could put like, maybe like some kind of industrial thing down here. Not like heavy industry, but we could do something. I don't know, a factory or an industrial cargo thing, or I don't know. We'll figure out what's going down there at some point. I don't think we want the suburb to go the entire length of this space. I think that might be a bit much. So let's, I guess, bring it around the lake. I think that would be kind of nice. So it goes like this. And then we can have a nice little section of straight road that kind of runs along the lake. We could maybe do a quay on that as well, so that it's, what if I did this? I'm thinking if we did a quay along that lake, we could maybe make this like a little fishing lake or something, do like a little fishing pier. And that might look nice, actually, especially since this is going to be a nice suburb. And then down here, we can sort of do the same thing. So like a little straight section of road there, bring this back, bring it forward a little bit. And yeah, I think that'll be pretty good. So now this is just going to curve down and connect to everything else. And honestly, it's not going to be perfectly parallel, but I think that's fine. So this guy comes down to here. This, maybe it goes back a little bit. And then what about just one big curve to this road down here? Yeah, I like that. I think that's good. Let's start filling up the space. So one thing I am wanting to do with Oak District here is have nothing but curved roads. They're not necessarily following any pattern. I mean, obviously these ones are, and these two are identical, but there's no method to my madness. I'm kind of just doing what I feel would look interesting, and I'm intentionally leaving a gap of 2 or 3 units between all of the roads so that what I can hopefully do is go ahead and put some fences in here, space the houses out a little bit, and generally make it look more like a neighborhood than just sort of another whole bunch of houses. Really, that's kind of my goal here, is to make it look interesting. So hopefully I can do that. Hopefully that's how this is going to turn out. I do want to get a nice little straight section of road there, and I do want to see if I can curve this a little bit better. So we'll turn on the curves, we'll turn on the guidelines, and we'll do something like that. And they're not perfect, but it does the job. And then I guess what we'll do here is we'll go an extra, maybe, let's say, what is that? 5, no, that's 5, so 6 units there. And I guess we'll go about 6 units there. We'll bring this one up a little bit further. And we'll curve this across so it connects to that road. And this guy is going to be sort of a similar story, I think. So up to about there, maybe leave a gap of about... it's not quite a big enough gap there if I do this. But I think we'll do it anyway, just to be a little bit irregular with the spacing on things. And that looks okay. It fills up that space. It gives us room for like a nice big park down here. This area up here, I feel, is going to be a little bit more densely packed than it is right now. So if I go in and I say that I want to do maybe 12 units off of here, going straight down to there, and then we go up and say we want a bit of a road coming out here, I can probably connect those two together. And yeah, that gives us a little bit more zoning up here, which is good. This is a little bit smaller, which is also good. We could probably do something like this as well, just a straight road across there to fill up the space. So again, we have room for some parks. We have room for a nice bunch of parks down here. We've all this space over here to play with. And I suppose we should go ahead and start filling up the neighborhood a little bit just to see what traffic does. I'm not expecting anything sort of incredible here. I'm not expecting traffic to be good, but I'm just curious to see how it goes. So we'll go ahead, we'll run the pipes around all of these roads as we always do, and we'll just see what happens, really. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. I kind of just want to trial and error this entire thing and see how it goes. And while I'm doing this, I guess I'm going to use this as an opportunity for a bit of a ramble, because rambling is kind of my thing. I've seen a few comments that were like, hey, have you ever considered a podcast? And yes, actually, I have. I've been sitting on a name for a podcast for years. And it's based on the channel name, which is ConflictNerd, which is a story in and of itself, which maybe we'll get to today, I don't know. But basically, I thought that Conflict of Interest would be like a really good name for a podcast on this channel that's like, it would have to be about debating something, though. You know, it would have to be 2 people or 3 people or whatever, kind of taking a topic and disagreeing on it, so that there is, it's not a conflict of interest necessarily, but, you know, it would have to be something like that. There'd have to be a topic worth discussing that is the center point. I just think that would have to be the way it would go with that name. But I think Conflict of Interest is such a good name for a podcast, and there's probably like 1 million podcasts out there already called that, but, you know, not hosted by someone that runs a YouTube channel with the word conflict in the name, which I guess I said we might get to. I feel like I'm doing a disservice if I don't explain where ConflictNerd comes from, because I feel like I haven't explained it in a long time. So yes, this is a story I've told before, and it's one I'll probably tell again, because it comes up every time there's a new influx of people to the channel. Always comes up. Where did ConflictNerd come from? So buckle in. This is the least exciting story you're going to hear. Many years ago, I think it would have been 2000 and probably 11. In 2011, myself and an old YouTuber buddy of mine were sitting down. I think we were streaming something. I don't know what we were doing, but we were doing something. And we came up with this idea of like, what would video game comic book characters be? Like their superpower is that they're like good at video games or something like that. So not a very good superpower, and certainly not one that I have. And we thought, what would they be called? And we came up with like the War Geek and the Conflict Nerd. And they're not amazing names, right? Look, I'll be completely honest with you. If I could rebrand this channel and not have everybody unsubscribe, I probably would. And I'm speaking from experience, because for a couple of months, a year or two ago, the channel name was just my name. It was just Dylan. And so many people unsubscribed, it was ridiculous. So I changed it back. If I could get away with rebranding, I would. I can't. So I don't. But yeah, we came up with the Conflict Nerd and the War Geek. And fast forward about a year, because I was running a YouTube channel at the time that was called Alien Earth, which sounds like it's going to be some sci-fi thing. It sounds like a conspiracy theorist channel name or something. That name actually came about from a random word generator. I can't remember. I don't think there were any criteria for it. It was just a random word generator. And I just clicked it once and it gave me alien. And then the other one was Earth. And I was like, oh, that's terrible. That'll do. And yeah, my YouTube channel for a bit was Alien Earth, which I don't think exists anymore. And that's probably for the best. So, you know, feel free to look it up, but it's the actual channel is not out there. There might be stuff on like other people's channels from over a decade ago that have me in there. I would be very surprised. It was not a successful channel. It was a Minecraft channel. But I finished making videos for that channel. I was kind of done with the whole YouTube thing. And I was like, you know, I don't want to do this YouTube thing. It didn't work out. I tried my best, but you know, it's time to get a real job, I guess. And yeah, so I was done with YouTube, and then like a year later, I'm like, man, I kind of want to try this YouTube thing again. And I couldn't come up with a channel name. And then I somehow just remembered that conversation that I had with that old buddy of mine, where we came up with the War Geek and the Conflict Nerd. And I wanted to be the War Geek. That was the original name that I tried to get on YouTube, but it was taken. This was before you could like have channels with the same name. So War Geek was taken. So I thought, oh, what was that other one? What was the other name? And it was like, Conflict Nerd. That'll do. It's not as good as War Geek, but it'll do, right? So that's basically how the channel name got chosen. And honestly, with hindsight, Conflict Nerd was the better name. I'm just gonna say it. Conflict Nerd it's the better name. War Geek, like geek just doesn't sound right in my accent, as far as I'm concerned. It just doesn't. It catches. I feel like it catches, and I can't say it properly. So I do think Conflict Nerd was the lesser of two evils, shall we say, in terms of a potential channel name. And honestly, that story, there's depth to it, because the friend in question, he's no longer a YouTuber, which is why I'm not naming him, because, like, you know, privacy, right? I don't want people going and being like, hey, you knew Conflict Nerd 12 years ago. What was that like? You know, not that anybody is, you know, but the point being, he's not a YouTuber anymore. He's not really in the public space, so I don't want to name him. But at the time, I actually met this person through a little competition called King of the Web. And I don't know if people remember King of the Web. I don't know if anyone remembers King of the Web. It was a thing where like influencers could like register to be crowned the King of the Web. And it was a clout competition, really. It was just like, who has the most subscribers and can sway this competition? Because you would get like, if you sign up for their website, you get like a certain number of votes per day. And then you vote for whoever you like, and it goes from there. And it's interesting, like it was an interesting competition, but I remember signing up for it and I was doing okay. And there was this other channel that kept like, I kept passing them and then they would pass me and then I would pass them and then they would pass me. And one day I got onto this Minecraft server I was playing on at the time. And this guy comes up to me and he's like, hey, are you running for King of the Web right now? And I'm like, oh my God, I've been recognized. This is so cool. Yeah, I'm running for King of the Web. And he's like, yeah, I thought I recognized your username. You just passed us. And it was them. It was these guys that I had this like little back and forth with on King of the Web. It was just like this, it was this Minecraft server we just both happened to be on, and then, you know, the rest is history. You know, ConflictNerd as a name wouldn't exist if we hadn't ran into each other in this random Minecraft server. I say random Minecraft server. It was a YouTuber's Minecraft server, but I don't remember which one. So it wasn't completely random, but it was also kind of random that we would just bump into each other in a Minecraft server. It was kind of cool, man. The internet was a different place 10 years ago. And I'm not saying that, you know, I'm saying that with a little hint of nostalgia, but also facts. I'm saying it with some facts too. The internet was a very different place 10 years ago. It was honestly, it was a lot less scary. Well, actually, no. I very recently had a conversation with someone about how like Xbox Live and the internet in general was a very different place 10 years ago, and how like there's this ongoing gag that like kids today wouldn't survive Call of Duty lobbies from like the mid 2000s. And it got me thinking about playing Call of Duty in the mid 2000s, and man, those were different times. Those are different times. There's people that like, there's people that played Call of Duty back then who really, I'm pretty sure, should be in prison. Just some of the things that would be said were things that they were interesting. Interesting times is what I'm gonna say. It was interesting times for the internet. It was very interesting times. Definitely some people should have been in prison though. It's also, to be fair, because I grew up through those times, that is also part of the reason that I don't play first-person shooters as much these days as I did back in the day, because they bring a side out of me that has long since been buried. And, you know, people like to think I'm a relatively chill person, I think, right? You know, people join my live streams and they'll be like, oh my God, I didn't know you swore. And I do. I swear like a sailor sometimes, okay? Obviously not in City Skylines videos. Like there's, you know, people will be like, why don't you swear in your YouTube videos? And it's like, man, when am I gonna need to swear in a Cities video, right? Like at what point during this video is something gonna happen that's gonna cause me to like lose my mind and start swearing like a sailor, you know? I don't know where I'm going with this conversation. I've got to be honest. I'm actually not sure where this conversation's going, but hopefully any of that made sense. Honestly, I don't even know where it started. I know there was something I said we were going to ramble for a bit. I have since forgotten what I was rambling about, but at the very least, the roads are in. So let's finish these pipes and start putting some zoning in here, because I'm curious to see how the traffic turns out. Oh yeah, it was the ConflictNerd. No, it wasn't the ConflictNerd thing. What the hell was I talking about before I started talking about where the channel name came from? Wow. Even I don't pay attention to what I talk about in these videos. That's alarming. That is probably alarming. I'll tell you what. I'll take this opportunity to not plug my Twitter at ConflictNerd, by the way. That doesn't count. I'm not plugging it. I'm not plugging it. I have a question. I've been looking at my Steam library recently, and obviously on the channel at the minute, we still need to finish Sim Airport, which is going to happen, by the way. Still need to finish Sim Airport. But once that's done, I've been kind of looking, and I'm really wanting some new games. So I've not been paying attention to what like management games, creative games, and stuff like that are coming up. So So if there's anything you've got your eye on, let me know in the comments, because I really have no idea. I've been thinking about, because I think there's an update coming to it, about restarting Transport Fever 2. But I want to set myself the rule that is, I will not release a single video on Transport Fever 2 until the series is finished, until I've recorded it all, because I keep abandoning that game. And I don't mean to. I don't mean to abandon any game that I'm playing on the channel. Just sometimes it's like, ugh, it's a bit of a drag. So I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about playing Banished again, because I haven't played that in years. And that's kind of it. I've considered The Sims, but every time I boot it, like, I buy every single Sims expansion, and then I load it up, I look at it, and I'm like, meh, I just can't bring myself to play it. And I don't know why. Because I do like The Sims. I played so much of The Sims 1 back at, you know what I want to do with this district, actually, just before we get into that ramble? I want to set it as self-sufficient housing. I think that would look really nice down here. So self-sufficient housing down here. And what we'll do is try and just block this out in some way that's going to look interesting. So we can do sort of different house sizes and all that good stuff. But yeah, I played so much of The Sims 1. And I didn't really play much Sims 2. I know Sims 2 is like the one that everyone's hype about. But I didn't play much Sims 2. I've got to be completely honest. I just didn't. And then Sims 3, I played as much of that as I possibly could, but it ran terribly on my PC back in the day, which, to be fair, I've been reliably informed that it ran terribly on everyone's PC back in the day. So that wasn't, you know, something I was going through alone. That was a struggle that all Sims players kind of faced back in the day. So that's nice. It's nice to know I wasn't alone in that particular struggle. But yeah, I keep thinking like, oh, I'll get back into The Sims. And I buy the new expansions. I buy whatever I don't have. I look at it. I load it up. And I create myself. And then I think, how am I going to commentate that? What can I talk about? Because all of my stories, all of my good stories get told in Cities Skylines videos. So it's like, I'm going to load up The Sims and be like, hey, did I ever tell you about the time I ran into this guy who was called Lyndon or something like that, or whatever his name was? I've actually kind of forgotten that story. But I feel like all my stories would just be repeated. And I feel like that's kind of what I do. You know, number one, yes, I do repeat a lot of stories, but also I feel like most of my videos just devolve into me rambling about nothing, like this one, like right now. You know what I mean? I feel like most of my videos turn into this. They turn into these moments where instead of really, like, I'm still playing Cities Skylines, we're still making progress here. The whole goal of this video, in terms of the game, is to, this is quite a meta conversation now, isn't it? The whole goal is to expand the city and grow the population and actually get some people in here, try and get a new tile, and then, you know, eventually my goal will be to put a cargo airport out here as well, near all of this housing, because I'm a terrible person. But I feel like this is how every video goes, especially after 7 years of Cities Skylines. All right. I know it's not for everybody. I know some people click on these, they're like, man, I just want to watch some cities. I don't care about this stuff. Just mute the video. It would be my advice there, to be brutally honest. But after 7 years of Cities, it's like, I look at Sims channels, right? I look at people, and I'm subscribed to quite a few Sims channels because I really like The Sims. I just can't bring myself to play it. And I look at these guys that have been playing The Sims for however many years, right? These people that have been, how long has The Sims 4 been? The Sims 4 has been out for a while now. And I look at these people still playing it, and they seem to be having a great time. I mean, admittedly, the recent DLC or expansion or whatever it's called for The Sims 4 is apparently having some technical issues. But aside from that, people seem to be having a great time with The Sims 4. So I don't know. It's impressive to me that people are still that passionate. And I'm still passionate about Cities Skylines, just to be clear. I do still enjoy this game. It's just, there's only, as I've said many times in the past, there's only so many ways you can kind of go, and we're going to place a road here, And we're going to place another road right there. Oh, and would you look at that? We're placing another road. Bet you didn't see that coming. You know what I mean? There's only so many ways you can kind of say that before it gets a little bit repetitive, which is why these videos turn into rambles and rants and raves about nothing at all. And that's the secret to YouTube, I feel. This is now just a meta conversation about how YouTube works. People are often like, how do you talk for so long every day and not get bored? And the truth is, I just ramble. And if you really pay attention to the commentary in most of my videos, that's kind of what it is. I talk for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, about nothing at all, really. And that's the secret. That's the secret to happy YouTubing, I feel, is teach yourself to talk for however long you need to talk and make it sound like what you're saying is convincing. Put pauses in the middle of sentences to really sell your point and enunciate and sound like you really strongly care about what you're talking about. But you're really saying nothing at all. And that's the secret. There you go. People ask, how do you be a YouTuber? There you go. You're welcome. That's the secret to being a YouTuber, I guess. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. Anyway, we got these houses in here. And the reason I wanted to use these self-sufficient ones is because I think they look great. And they're also quite similar, which is good. They don't, all look crazy different. And what I want to do with all of this is essentially, I want to go in here with the forestry fence. And I want to basically put a whole bunch of fences between, or betwixt, if you prefer, all of these houses. And I want to make it look like a proper little neighborhood, which is going to be a lot of work. And remember earlier in the video when I said I didn't want this to turn into a Let's Build? I still don't. But I do think this is going to look really good. I think it's going to make this this neighborhood look, more like a neighborhood, more like a built-up neighborhood than it otherwise will without these fences. So something like this is fine. And then essentially, I want to go and do... I mean, a lot of these houses already have fences around them. But my idea would be something like this. And then we just move it to sort of move the nodes a little bit so that the fences are relatively evenly between the houses. And then we're going to use trees at some point to kind of hide some crimes and make this all look a little bit better. But just something like that, I think is probably fine for that little area. We can kind of go in here and do, I don't know, something like, if this would snap properly, that'd be great. We can do something like this, I guess. Or, connect from here to there and shuffle it along a little bit. So put this guy like that. And I do think this will help to really sell the idea that this is just a big old neighborhood. I think it looks kind of cool, and I think with some trees in there, it's gonna look even better. It'll really come together to sell it as a nice neighborhood with a bunch of backyards and obviously massive aircraft going overhead. That's sort of the downside to the neighborhood. It looks beautiful from the ground, but every day, occasionally, you're gonna have cargo planes overhead, and the residents here might not like that, but I would reckon they probably got a bargain on the house prices here, so that's the trade-off. So one thing I have decided to do with this whole stretch of houses is leave a gap between their back fences, because what I figure I can probably do is use this dirt path to just make something interesting back here, right? So just bring this path kind of down here and just gradually sort of connect these all together. And with some trees and stuff like that, it's going to look a little dodgy. It's going to look a little weird, but I think it'll be kind of cool. I think it'll be a little bit different. I don't think I've done something like this before with one of these neighborhoods where I actually put the fences in between all the houses. So I think this will be kind of cool looking to let people kind of walk down through there. And I think what I'm actually going to do is sort of two sections of this path here. So there, well, we'll do one on the side here, and then do that. And then I want to bring this right up, and I want to bring this right over to the fence there. And I want to do another little bit right here. Honestly, just because I sort of can. And I guess if we do this instead, what we can do is grab those two nodes, just push this over a little bit and bring it down. Because what I can do is just put a nice big tree in there. And it's going to make that look like it's just an area that, you know, they couldn't fit a house in. I think that's fine. I think that's pretty good. So that's going to let us have that alleyway going back there. And I guess what we'll do is we'll use this particular neighborhood as a bit of an experiment to see what this will look like. Oh, sorry, this particular stretch of houses as a bit of an experiment to see what this would actually look like if we do this whole business with the trees and all that good stuff. So we'll do a couple of these giant oak trees, and then we'll throw some bushes kind of here at the road. We'll do a little bit of color. We'll do a little bit of this down here as well to make it look a little bit overgrown. And I think that's okay. We could probably do a little bit in that corner. And I reckon we can probably dot some other shrubs in here at some point. There's not really any rush to do it. We're probably going to need tree anarchy, though, if I want to get some, yeah, stuff like this. And what about these guys? Oh, I can fit those in there as well. Perfect. So basically, we're just going to dot this entire little back alley space thing, this little lane, with a whole bunch of different trees, so that it's kind of almost covered. I almost don't want to see this path when I zoom way out. I mean, I want to know it's there, but I also don't. Does that make sense? I feel like that doesn't make sense, but it'll hopefully look the way I'm aiming for. So we'll get some of these guys in here as well. I do want some color. I do absolutely want to try and get some of these guys in here too. So if we do this, that nicely covers the end of it, which is good. And then we could maybe do similar, say, here. And that gives us a little bit of color as well. I don't want to go too crazy with color at that end, though, because we've already got two sort of in the same space. So we'll do one here as well. And we'll do one in this spot as well. Because we have color on the houses, and that is important to remember, is that these houses have various, you know, pinks and purples and all that with the trees that come with them. So we don't need to go too crazy with this because we are going to have the color from the houses. So we'll get some trees in here. We'll go for more of these guys since they grow quite nicely back here. I am wondering though, could I get away with some pine trees? Would pine trees, I think a couple might look kind of nice. And I know I've been mixing different types of trees and all that for a little bit now, and I know it doesn't always make sense to mix the various different types of trees, but I just think it looks cool. I'm kind of going for what I think looks good over what's realistic, which is kind of my thing with City Skylines, really. But I think the different shades of green, the different shapes of trees and all that stuff really come together to just make somewhere look more interesting than it otherwise would. So that's basically what I'm going for. Okay, I think that looks all right. I think it looks interesting, a little bit different. And I mean, we do have some people that are occasionally going up and down this path. Although, of course, now that I've mentioned that, there's going to be absolutely nobody walking up and down this path because I needed an example and I'm not going to get one. But there are some people that use it from time to time. And also, traffic doesn't seem to be too bad right now, which is very good news because I was worried it would be. Now, it's not amazing. It's definitely not that, but it's not as bad as it otherwise could be. I'm also thinking that I might cheat a little bit, and I might throw another section of avenue just there. Now, it's a little steep, and it does run into a four-way intersection, but I think that's probably going to be a relatively good idea. I'm also realizing that this little junction here is going to be a nightmare, so let me just do this, and let me just do this, and say that the rest of the traffic has to kind of, you know, give way to the traffic going this way. I'm also thinking that I want these guys to be able to enter this intersection, and I want these guys to be able to enter that intersection as well. Otherwise, traffic's going to get really slow in some of these areas. So let's kind of allow that and allow it to move a little bit. and we'll see what happens. Traffic is getting kind of bad around here, but we'll figure that out. We got to get some buses into Oak District and, you know, get the buses coming down towards the train station as well. So I guess let's do that. Let's figure out what the buses are going to do. And I guess they should, I guess they're kind of going to go this way. And I'm thinking I'm actually going to do, do I want to do 2 bus lines? I'm going to do 2 bus lines. I don't know if it makes a lot of sense to do 2 bus lines, but I'm going to do 2 bus lines because I think it's going to be a little bit better for us. And we'll just sort of bring it around a lot of this space like this, try and keep it relatively close to intersections. This one's not close to an intersection, but that'll be fine. This guy's going to go to here. And then what I want to do is I want to bring it out. I want it to stop there by the train station and then come back and into the district. Now, obviously people, well, I guess people could just cross the road. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. We're just going to let people cross the road for the time being. And then for the rest of it, it's going to be sort of a similar thing. Which, I don't know how well this is necessarily going to work now that I think about it. I think maybe we do just expand the line to go kind of the entire way around the district. Maybe like a figure 8, so it comes in, it goes that way. So it starts in this bottom left corner, it goes across, up there, up to there, around, up there, and sort of back. I think that might be the way to do it. I think that's probably what we're going to have to do to maybe efficiently is maybe not the word I'm looking for, but to hopefully figure out this this district. So it can go to there. It can go to there. It's going to come down to this spot. Oh boy, this is going to be terrible looking. It's going to go to here. It's going to have a stop here. It's then going to go up onto this road. And I think it's starting to do the figure 8. It is doing the figure 8. So yeah, they kind of cross over each other here, but I think that's just going to have to be the way of it. Otherwise, I just don't see the point in having multiple bus lines going around this entire space. So that should be fine. We'll see how that goes. I'd imagine this will be a relatively popular stop since it's very close to the station. And then once we start getting the pedestrian paths across, you know, here, should be even better. Speaking of that bit, though, let's go ahead and figure that out. Let's go ahead and use the tree brush, which I don't use often, but we'll use this tree brush and we'll just paint in, maybe not that dense, maybe a little bit less strength on that. We'll pull some of those guys out and we'll just sort of paint in this sort of thing. And I'm not really too worried about this being some kind of perfect forest. Usually I'm pretty keen on having my forest look a certain way in City Skylines, but I think this is just a natural kind of barrier between, you know, what's already there with the highway and then the neighborhood. So I'm kind of okay with this. I think that looks fine. We can obviously, you know, put some color in there at some point, but for now, I just want to paint all that space. I'm going to put some paths through there. I'm going to put some fences around it. And I think that'll be fine. And I think that's good. I think having that, you know, these big tall buildings here, a line of trees, and then a suburb, I think that's fine. And I think it's going to look really good when we get more fences in here. So let's go for the regular park fence for this area, unless I want to go for something else. What if we went for the farm fence? Because didn't I say once upon a time that I did kind of like the farm fence? I'm almost certain that I did. So something like this. And you know what? Yeah, I do like that. It's different. It's a little bit less kind of urban, I suppose, than the well, the forestry fence isn't urban, but it's less urban than the park fence. So that's totally fine. So we'll bring this over to about here. And what we'll do is bring this guy just back a tiny, tiny little smidge. And bring it all up this way to about there. And we just need to curve it around. So in terms of curving this around, I mean, this bit's going to be straight to there. And I guess what we do is we go ahead and curve it down like that. And I do think that looks good. I think it's very noticeably a farm fence, but I think it's also, it's like I said, it's not as urban as the park fence would be. I mean, we can have a look at the park fence, and it's not bad. The forestry fence, maybe, it would look interesting as well. Again, it's not bad, but I think I like being able to see through the fence, and that's kind of what I want for my my Sims. I kind of want them to be able to see through the fence. So I think we go for... Yeah, I think we go for the farm fence. I think it's the best option for here. So let's get this area surrounded in farm fence. Oh, we're a capital city. Lovely. So what does the university campus look like? That's something I'm gonna have to figure out, because I do also want to get one of those. So the admin building on that is actually very nice. Okay, yeah, we're 100% gonna have to build a university. All right, so that's the fences for all of these areas now done. I've decided to skip on pedestrian paths for the time being because I'm just not 100% sure we're gonna need them. Because the way I'm looking at it is we have this bus stop right here, so they can just sort of go down and around this way and get to the train station. It would, in saying that, it would probably make sense to put a little path through there so they can kind of cut straight across. So I guess we can do that. And I guess we can sort of make it into a little bit of something, right? A little bit of something. That's kind of my way of describing things when I have no idea what it's really going to look like. So it's just going to be a little something. So what we'll do, I guess, is I'll use this amusement park path because I think that'll probably look the best. Although I'm probably going to have to build it just about here and then copy and paste it over. So we'll do this and just dump it right about there for the time being. Let me bulldoze the original. And then what we'll do is just bring this right up to the edge of that path. We'll bring it right up to the edge of that guy and just raise this end up ever so slightly. And then this end looks pretty good, but we'll just lower it or raise it, I guess, so we don't see the dirt. And that looks fine. And then all I need to do is, you know, a tree there and a tree here. And we can throw a little bit of color into this space with this guy here and here. And we'll just go ahead and throw another one of these guys, another one of these guys, and another big oak tree right about there. And maybe a couple of little guys in the front and one of these guys right in the corner. And that's fine. So that'll let people get across to the train station without having to go down to the road. And I would imagine that's going to be a relatively busy path. I would hope that's going to be a relatively busy path. And I guess we could probably do similar here as well, since we have a bus stop there so they can cross to the bridge. And then down here, well, I don't really know that we're going to need to do that, but I think this will be a good little addition to the space. So now, really, what I've got to do is go around and fill the rest of this with houses, and then eventually, and this is the part I'm not necessarily looking forward to, eventually I need to go ahead and build all of the fences for all of the houses. And that's going to be that's going to be a project, is what that's going to be. That is going to be a project. I am going to be a little bit more careful with these though, because on a lot of these guys, the fences were at weird angles. I'm going to be a little bit lazier on this one so I can just sort of go straight across with them. Now, obviously these curves are going to be slightly trickier, but I'm going to do my best to make my life as easy as it can possibly be when it comes to all of these fences, because otherwise, oh boy, is all I'm going to say. And there we go. We've got the rest of this space ready to build. I'm thinking what I'm also going to do before we get done today is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to try and do something with this little area here. Because I really do like the idea of just having a little key down here. I think it would look really, really nice to just have this area for whatever, really. I think it'd be good to just have like a little fishing spot is basically what I'm looking at it as. Now, whether or not this really works as a fishing spot, I'm not really too sure. I'm not sure if this is the type of key that I want to go for, or if I'd rather go for, I don't know, something like this one instead. I think this one might look a little bit more interesting. Yeah, I think that's probably the one that we're going to go for. So what we'll do is something like this. We'll grab this this segment here. We can curve it around like that, and we can extend this bit to, say, I don't know, here, I guess, is probably fine. And I think that's good. It might be a little bit overdone. I think that's actually too much up there. But I like this. I think this is nice. So what I want to do is I want to go in, I want to grab these segments and these nodes, and I want to just make sure everything's nice and level, and probably sloped as well. Oh God, sloping it was not a good idea. Let's level it to this height, and then let's grab the road nodes and get all of this leveled to the same height as well. So that height right there. And then basically my thinking is, well, actually, that all of these guys need to move back a little bit so that they're touching the road. So they need to be about there. And I think that looks fine. So we'll just make sure they're leveled. And then this guy and this guy need to move back a little bit as well. So they're going to go back to about there. And that should be okay. If we level it to this height, everything's all right. Yes, we have that dirt in there. But I think what I can do is maybe just level the terrain. Yeah. So I can just ever so slightly adjust the terrain to get rid of the dirt that's on the key. And it still gives us a relatively shallow space, which is kind of what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for anything too crazy here. And I think that looks, I think that looks pretty good. We should probably also get rid of the trees and the props that are on the key. So something like that and something like that. But I think that's nice. I think that's kind of cool. I think it's different. We can maybe build some kind of little park around this this lake. Or even, if I really wanted to, I could probably go ahead and turn this section of highway, which is not perfectly straight, by the way, and that does sort of annoy me. I could turn this section of highway into a bridge and let that flow underneath, which might look kind of cool and it might not. We're going to basically find out together whether or not this looks any good. But my thinking would be this, and we'll do this. And these guys they really don't line up all that well at all, but that's fine. I guess what we do is we'll bring this guy to here. We'll bring this guy to the same spot. We'll sort of take this all back a little bit, and we'll just sort of redo this entire section of highway because it's not been lined up properly at all. So, or rather, it's been lined up. It's fine. It does the job. It's just not, you know, it wasn't exactly parallel either. So that looks fine to me, I think. I don't actually, you know what? I don't know if it does look fine to me. Let's take all that back again. Let me go ahead and turn off tree anarchy. And what we'll do is come out from here, and we're looking to line up with this guy. So about there, I think is what I'm looking for. And for this one, it's going to be kind of a similar thing to about there and down, and that's fine. So that's all right. That does what we needed it to do. This should all be facing that way. This should all be facing that way. And then what we can do is just ever so slightly adjust the terrain here to make this, you know, into whatever it's going to be. So I'm going to just go right up against the highway for a second with this. And I'm going to do the same on this side as well. And then what I can do is just hit it with a decently sized but very, very gentle smoothing brush to kind of give it that that look that it had before. Right, so that pretty much gives us exactly the same setup on the highway. And then what I want to do is I want to go in and say this bit up to that bit is going to be turned into a bridge. And I kind of want to use the highway viaduct for that. So elevate, get rid of those bits, and we should be able to go in here with a leveling brush and do this. And that should give us just a very, very shallow little river going through there, which I think will look kind of interesting. In fact, I could probably make it deeper in the middle so that it's a little bit more realistic. And then just hit it again with a very, very gentle smoothing brush at the side there. and at the side here. And I think that's kind of cool looking. I do think that's kind of cool looking. I think it's a little different. You know, just a really low bridge over a little lake right by a residential area. I think it's going to be beautiful. So now all we have to do really is get the houses in here, get the detailing in here, get the fences in here, the trees in here, and, you know, that's nothing at all, really. He says, smiling to hide the pain. You know, I'm almost tempted to put some shops in this neighborhood as well, and I feel like this little spot right in the middle here could be kind of good for it, since it's a bunch of relatively parallel zoning. So if we took those guys out, we basically have this kind of square to play with. Now, what can I do in terms of zone specializations for commercial? We can go for organic and local produce. It'll change commercial areas to consist of buildings like organic produce shops, electric car charging stations, and such. It'll produce 50% of sold goods locally. Truck traffic is reduced, increases electricity consumption, reduces garbage. Let's try it, and let's see if it's actually something we can get away with. Because my thinking is this, and I guess we'll do something sort of similar. Although I'm kind of wondering if I could... Actually, if I do this and I do this, that gives us 4 shops. And then what I can do is I can go in, I can get some parking. And I'm not really super keen on, you know, having a bunch of parking in this area, but I think there is fine. And what we can do with this as well is we could probably use the forestry fence, which I think is the one I used over here already. Yeah, it is. What we could maybe do instead of the forestry fence is maybe the ore industry fence. So it has a little bit more of I guess, a built up look to it. And we can kind of just run it straight down to there. We can run it straight down to there. And I don't really want this to look imposing. That's not really my goal. But I want it to look like it is very distinctly a different area. So something like that. And then we can maybe cut across the middle as well, just to sort of separate the two sides. Or I guess what I could do is use this path right here to make it look like they're not separated. So if I do that, and then once that all builds, it should look like it's all connected together. So that should be all right. And we'll give that a go. And we'll see what that ends up looking like. So we'll get some commercial in there. Hopefully it won't take long to build, which it doesn't seem to have done. We have an Eco Mart popping up, which is not looking like much. Wow, that is not that is not what I was expecting that to be. Huh. Okay. Well, fair enough. Tell you what I will do is I'm going to change this guy into a road with grass on it, and same with that one as well. Just because I can. At least we have one store, right? So we have a little bit of something going on there. Hopefully they'll upgrade at some point. But yeah, a little bit of commercial right in the middle so that people can shop relatively locally. And I guess what I'm going to do is, before we wrap things up today, is let's do the fences for these two sections of houses to get an idea of what it's going to look like, so that we can get an idea of what this area is going to look like in general when it's finished. And there we go. We've got all the fences in here. We've got the paths in the back areas as well. We actually have a really good number of people waiting for buses as well, which is lovely. And I've got to be honest, I think even for me, this is walking a line where it's too many trees. And I love this look. I really do. But I definitely get the feeling that I've got way too many trees in here. So we might need to swap some of this out for a different theme, I guess, for the district. But I'm also thinking that I might, even though I said I wasn't going to, I might go to the Steam Workshop and I might see if I can get my hands on something that would look a little bit better around here. But I like this. I think this is a really good start. The whole area is going to need the same treatment and going to need to be built up in the same way, but I think this is good. I think it fills up the space pretty well. It is a huge district, but that's kind of the point. It's kind of the suburb between the city and the airport, and I think that kind of makes sense. Over here is going to end up being a cargo airport, or at least a cargo extension of the existing airport. And then I guess down here can be, like I said, some kind of industry thing. And I also guess if I really wanted to, I could push some train lines, you know, into Oak District, but I'm going to try and avoid that. And I think, honestly, what I'll probably do is have this train line follow the highway and cross over here. So people will be here like fishing, and there's also going to be a train going past, which I think will look kind of cool. To be completely honest, I think that'll look kind of interesting. And then somehow I have to connect that to the existing industry as well. But I like this. I think this is kind of a cool little space. My next step, really, is going to be to go in with the parks brush and essentially designate this entire space here as a park. It is still going to have houses on it, but the area kind of in between the houses is going to be some kind of park. I'm not really sure what it's going to be, but it's going to be something. And then this space up here is probably going to be something as well. This one here is probably going to be something. And this right here, I was going to say would be a park, but I think it should just be housing as well. I figure that probably makes sense to just kind of continue the housing up around here. These maybe be a little bit more expensive than housing elsewhere, but I think that'll be okay. And we can still probably do a little park in there so that it, you know, fills up the space. So I guess this would be some kind of designated park as well. So that's going to be Oriental Meadows. That one's Autumn City Park. And I guess this as well could probably be something too. I really want this area to be, I want it to be really pleasant to live in. And I know that these parks are going to attract tourists, but honestly, that's kind of okay because, I mean, we have the buses, right? We have the buses going around, so hopefully, you know, the tourists will take those, and hopefully it means that the people living here will be happy enough as well. So that seems pretty good. That seems like a decent little layout. We have still got these weird looking shops here, but that's all right. But I think that's going to do us for today. I think that is a good expansion to the city. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how this detailing turns out across the entire district. And then I guess we come down and try and fill in this space as well. And then eventually, actually thinking about it, let's get this. And I guess the next step will be to expand out this way as well, which has been a really long time coming. So I'm looking forward to that too. Hopefully you are as well. We'll see. We'll see what happens next time. For now, though, that is going to do us for today. So thank you very much for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.